Welcome to any combo lords joining me here today. We are here on a Sunday afternoon, possibly to replace the Monday live stream I often do, because tomorrow, although I will have a main combo class episode coming out about the golden ratio, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do a Monday live stream, so I figured today we would take a moment to chat about a few in-between episode mathematical topics and a few stories and such, as well as look at some mathematical music making. Now, I really just mean making digital music, which isn't inherently going to be based on one math equation or anything, but there's a lot of mathematical ways to analyze what's going on in music, and the way I program digital beats, such as the soundtracks for my combo class episodes, is more mathematical than average. And so I figured once in a while in a stream like this, as I'm editing my next episode and thinking, I don't have any of the soundtrack beats I've already made that fit every moment, but maybe I want some background music I like homemade stuff in the background. Maybe as I cook up some new soundtrack beats, I'll occasionally live stream it, and you folks can sort of see the process of putting together something musical. There will be full music theory lessons coming out at some point, as far as like episodes to teach about scales and chords and such. And at some point, maybe even tutorials on specific instruments such as piano or guitar. But I'm not sure exactly how soon those episodes will come out. The next few episodes are down my often typical rabbit hole of number theory-ish topics that are things I find beautiful about numbers that I think more people should know about. And that, just to kind of fill in what is coming, the episode coming in tomorrow at some point on Monday is about the golden ratio. I'm finishing up the edit right now, and last stream was somewhat of a prequel to some of the stories that led to the golden ratio, so we're not going to need to discuss that too much in this stream, but if we have some extra time, I might share a few things about the golden ratio today as well that didn't fit in the episode, because the episode is focused on the powers of the golden ratio, by which I don't just mean the superpowers or abilities. It also has, powers in a metaphorical sense, but the powers of it in terms of like it to an integer exponent. And the powers of it are a whole family of cool numbers with a lot of cool traits, and we're looking into their relationship to some classic recurrence-based other things in math that you may know. A lot of cool connections with that, but I didn't even have time to touch the tip of the iceberg of some other places the golden ratio shows up. For example, geometry. It's all over pentagons, and so if I have a dodecahedral die around here somewhere, here we go. It's all over pentagons, and one of the most classic, to some people, representations of the golden ratio is a rectangle or a spiral that you make with rectangles. So a lot of people even think of it as an inherently geometric thing. This episode's less about that. Sorry to the people who are really into the spiritual side of the golden ratio, but at the beginning I do note that it's not about the golden ratio popping up in nature and architecture and paintings and stuff. That is a little exaggerated. While there are circumstances where that has happened, that's a different episode about to what degree it actually is or isn't in nature and history. This episode is just about the mathematical nature of it and how cool it is number-wise. And somebody quoted saying, remembering my words that I said the golden ratio is the most irrational number. And that is the other thing I was about to mention that didn't fit in the episode. I'm not even sure if I'm going to include this cut at the end where I mentioned like 30 seconds about that, which might not even make it in the end edit. There's going to be a whole nother episode, because there's cool ways to visualize this, whole separate episode about irrationality. Which numbers are which types of irrational, and how normally we kind of categorize them as there's the more irrational seeming ones are the transcendental ones that don't have an algebraic expression to they're not an answer to a basic polynomial, so you can't write them with square rooty things easy, like pi and e. And then the golden ratio is actually on the algebraic irrational numbers side that typically you'd think of as the less irrational ones. They at least have a square rooty way of writing them. But under other metrics, you could say, maybe I'm going to calculate irrationality to mean how easy is it to approximate with fractions. Maybe, since irrational means it can't be a fraction, maybe I'll say, for a given size of denominator and some numerator with that denominator, how close to the number can I get? And under the metric of how easy it is to approximate with a given size of fraction, how easy it is to be close to the irrational number, that's a different metric where the transcendentals don't necessarily automatically win. And in fact, under that metric, it's often said as the most irrational number is the golden ratio. Although to be more technical, there's sort of a family it's part of that there might be senses in which it is the most irrational, but the way I'm going to describe it does have friends that are similar to it. So it's more like, under some metrics also, it is like the seed of a family of a type of really irrational number, and often simplified to describe it as it's the most irrational, which, there are different metrics of that. And in fact, there's something really wild called the irrationality measure of numbers. And some numbers are given an irrationality measure, which is, some other metric of calculating how irrational they are. And there's a type of number that this type is transcendental. They are called the Liouville numbers, but they have, as far as I remember, I need to look back into this, but they have an infinite irrationality measure. And that will also come up in an episode where we try and prove a number is transcendental. We can't do it as easily with pi or e. It's possible, but I don't know if it'll get in an episode or not. But there are certain numbers that we can prove that they're transcendental without too much work. Now, somebody's noting that the golden ratio solves n squared equals n plus 1, and that is at the heart of this episode, because there's about 2 minutes of the episode near the beginning is a story from my childhood when I asked that question, essentially, without thinking of it as numbers, without thinking of it as that expression with the n's and stuff. I was wondering which number's square is one more than itself. And this episode is essentially about how that question I had as a kid ties into many other questions that you could have had that would have led you to the golden ratio. And yep, to whoever mentioned the silver ratio, that also did not fit in this episode, that there are other metallic ratios. And that, once again, the golden ratio is cool enough. It's going to have a few episodes it's the star of. It's the star of this episode. And it was a co-star of the irrational and fractional bases episode. And the fact that we were able to use irrational and that we were able to use the golden ratio as a base, despite being irrational, and make integers easy with like finite length representations, relates to stuff we'll cover in this episode. So if you remember that episode really well, you're already going to know 10 or 20% of this episode, but it's going to explain a little more about, after you see this episode, maybe go back and watch the fractional and irrational bases one and think about how the stuff we're going to see about the golden ratio helps explain some of the reasons it worked so well in that episode. But yep, the other metallic ratios did not fit in this. They will probably get mentioned on a brief title card, and there will be its own episode in the future that I'll call something like the other metallic ratios beyond the golden ratio. And yep, one is called the bronze ratio too. Somebody asked if I watch Vsauce, and I do. I love Vsauce. That's one of the greatest channels on YouTube. If I had a gun to my head and I had to pick just one channel to preserve to history, I might pick Vsauce. Because There's a lot of classic videos that guy's done. And I think that I haven't been up to date with all the shorts he's been putting out because I don't watch that many. I like film more shorts than I watch. But so I haven't been watching all the shorts he puts out. I've seen a few. But the full episodes, whenever he puts out a full episode on that channel, they're still all brilliant. I love all of them. So that is a great channel. I only don't mention it when I mention my favorite math channels because it's not like inherently a math channel, but there are also good math videos on there. Now, so the golden ratio cubed somebody is mentioning, and the golden ratio cubed will show up in the episode. Now, I made a short that showed how the golden ratio is reciprocal and the golden ratio squared have a very similar looking decimal tail to the golden ratio. The cube doesn't, but there's still two really cool patterns it's part of that you have to zoom out a little to notice. And somebody asked, will I upload this episode to YouTube in order to watch it later? If you mean this stream, yes, I do put the streams out as videos after the fact. And at some point within a day of them being done, I add timestamps and stuff. So if you find the timestamps really helpful to jump around to parts you like, you might want to, when you're rewatching the streams, wait half a day sometimes so I can put in the timestamps. But I do always make them available to watch after. And if you meant the episode I'm discussing, the combo class episode, yes, make sure you're all tuned into my channel called Combo Class, which, despite having way fewer subscribers than this one, is where my best episodes go. Now, it's almost like if I had to oversimplify the description, that's more of my quality channel and this is more of my quantity channel. Not that the content on this is bad, but that this is a more uncut, long, a little more stream of thought like. And the Combo Class channel, I make the episodes to hopefully simultaneously be something that could be played in a school under some context, and you could have fun watching it on a Friday night with a friend, possibly under some context. So my goal is to hopefully make them like, a fun TV show that teaches you stuff. Whereas this channel is sort of like my playground. And in fact, I do want to mention that both of the channels just passed some, roundish numbers in our base of subscribers. And let's note right here which numbers we passed, because it's fun to sometimes analyze those numbers. On this channel, we just passed 130,000, which is not the coolest number we're getting close to. And on the combo class, we just passed 31,000. Hey, those numbers look pretty similar. Now, a lot of people, if comparing these, would compare 31 with 130. But we don't have to say how many thousands. We can note that each zero means you got a factor of 2 and 5. So this has 3 times that happens, that has 4 times that happens. But apart from all the 2s and 5s in the prime factorization, this just has a 13 and that just has a 31. I kind of can see just automatically that the prime factorization here is 31 times 2 cubed times 5 cubed, and that here it's 13 times 2, let's see, I didn't really need to put these parentheses, I was just trying to make it clear, 2 to the 4th and 5 to the 4th. And all I needed to know for that is that a 0 means a 2 and a 5, and that 13 and 31 are primes. Make sure you've all seen the latest Combo Class episode that came out a little under a week ago, where we looked at how to easily remember and identify any 2-digit prime number. It's simple enough, at least definitely up to 90, and debatably up through 120. Very easy. So I don't see why anyone shouldn't know the techniques behind it. And some people noted that what I was doing in there was similar to this old technique called Eratosthenes something sieve, which I'm not sure how to pronounce the guy's name, but it is a classic way of checking off primes, where you check off every second prime. Then your next one in the list is 3, so you check off every third prime. And then 4 is already gone, so you go to 5, and then you check off every fifth. Or each number to eliminate the composites. Classic way that we were kind of doing in the episode, but more so what I wanted people to get out of the episode isn't how to do that technique, which I feel like people already know, but how far you have gotten with knowledge you're sure about with different stages of the technique. So like if I've filtered 2s, 3s, and 5s, which number up to do I know it's either prime or eliminated? So that's mostly what I wanted people to get out of it. More so is which ranges of numbers could, if they're either prime or have a certain type of factors that build them up, and which ranges are guaranteed which smaller subsets of that. Like how any number under 24, any whole number bigger than 1 but under 25 is either a prime or somewhere in its factors is either even and or threeven. So that's sort of what I wanted people to get out of that. I don't know why people shouldn't know up through 90 at least. The technique's very easy. Now, somebody's asking some random questions about like asymptote and induction method and stuff like that. I'm not your best bet at explaining that type of vague enough term that is just like going to show up in a lot of contexts. I actually recommend, if you're curious about something like that, seeing what Wikipedia has to say about it, even though it's not a source you'd want to cite in a research paper. They're pretty usually right about math stuff. And I would see what Wikipedia has to say about it, or possibly the Wikipedia-esque site called Wolfram Math World. Now, here we have these two numbers, and 13 and 31 are kind of cool because they're flipped versions of each other. And 13's a fun number because a lot of people consider it unlucky in like Western cultures, but I think we should flip that and consider it lucky. And 31 is kind of, in our base 10 system, it's reflection of sorts, the flip version. They are both primes. Now, 31 is arguably a more important prime than 13. 13 will show up more often than certain large primes, just due to being a smallish prime. But 31 has the special trait of being 1 less than a power of 2. That makes it the type of prime called a Mersenne prime. And when you're 1 less than a power of 2, you're also the sum of the first sum amount of powers of 2. And since I think that's worth sinking in, I actually want to show that real quick, how 31, we're going to get that many dice. It's not about what number is showing on them. We're just treating each like at 1 unit. So if I add up some powers of 2, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8... I'm not going to focus on putting the ones up now. I'm just getting the right number of them. So here we have some powers of 2 growing. And where are we at so far? 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 less than the next one. 1 plus 2 plus 4 is 7. 1 less than the next one. 1 plus 2 plus 4 is 8, is 15. And that's 1 less than the next one, and which is 16. And if I put 16 dice there, that would be 31. It's the sum of the first 5, counting from the 0th power. It's the sum of the powers of 2 from the 0th power to 4th power. Or it's 1 less than the 5th power of 2. And the reason mathematically that makes sense is because it's like binary what's going on right there. And if I have a number that's what I call a binary hyper-11, some would call a generalized rep unit in binary. If I have a binary hyper-11, this is, well, let's do the one that it is. Right here, this stands for a 1, a 2, a 4, an 8, and a 16. And those add up to the number we know as 31. And we can see that it's also 1 less than 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, because because if we added 1 to this, it would like flip upward to the next place. And so this is like the equivalent of 99999 in our base before you get to the next one. And so 1 less than that will be that. And 1 less than that means 1 less than a power of 2 was all we had there. And that means the sum of a bunch of powers of 2 in a row. And 31's a special one because it's one of the only numbers known to humanity that is a hyper 11 with more than 3 ones in more than one base. It also is a string of 1s in some other base. Let's see which one it is. I have Wikipedia here, so let me pull open the conjecture I'm talking about. This is one of my favorite open questions in math. It looks really... I'm just pulling up the Wikipedia of it for now, but I have mentioned this in my older episode about hyper 11s on the Combo Class channel. It says that there's only a few solutions to this equation. However, it turns out these are formulas for how you could write a hyper 11 in some base, a generalized rep unit. And so it's saying that we can make a hyper 11 in 2 different ones with it more than 2 amount of 1s in it. So here's their application to rep units. It can be expressed by saying that 31 and this one other number are the only 2 numbers, and note that it's a conjecture, it's not proven, but many numbers have been checked. And as far as I know, the mathematical consensus from someone who would know about this would probably be guessing that the conjecture is correct. And that these are the only 2 numbers that are rep units with at least 3 digits in 2 different bases. Rep unit is what I call hyper 11, although sometimes when they say rep unit, they're implying just base 10. So here we see that 31 can also be written as 3 1s in base 5, which is 1 plus 5 plus 25. So 31's cool, and where's just 31? 31 has a lot of fun facts about it. 31 is the number of regular polygons with an odd number of sides constructible. We're going to get into this later because these Fermat primes, similar to how these hyper 11s are how the Mersenne primes look, the Fermat primes are a type of what I call hollow 11s, where it has 1s on the end and a lot of 0s between. So we will do an episode about what I call hollow 11s someday too. Now, somebody is saying, let me answer some chats before I do this. Somebody was saying that last time they were in the chat, we just had 100K. And yeah, we hit 100K right around Pi Day. So that was just about 2 months ago, or slightly over 2 months ago. So that's pretty awesome and wild that we have grown another 30,000 subscribers here in barely over 2 months. Really cool. It is mostly from the shorts, so I hope that most of the shorts viewers do at some point get a long enough attention span to want to watch my longer videos, especially going over to the Combo Class channel, because it is a little ironic that my more perfectionist channel that I intended would probably have been the one with more subscribers. I didn't realize how well all the shorts I put on this channel would do. Although the numbers look similar, that is 4 times bigger, and so more. So we need to catch up that Combo Class channel. And it will happen over time because I have so many cool episodes planned for that, so some of them will blow up again in the future, like 1 or 2 of them have in the past on there. Now, somebody also asked, where's the music? We will get to that. We're just talking about numbers for a bit first. I know I put music in the foreground of the topic, but that'll be like pretty soon. Now, 31 is all this other stuff, types of centered polygonal number. That's that fun fact. The cube root of 31 is shockingly close to pi. The cube root of 31 is my favorite approximation of pi. And these are all prime in this chain. However, then you get composites. the 11th and final consecutive super singular prime. We haven't gone into those yet. 31 is in one of my popular shorts that has also been shown on a few other math channels. That's a fun sequence of numbers that goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 31. And it is actually a sequence that describes something notable, even though it seems like you're going toward the powers of 2. It describes this circular thing, which we've done in a short. So, a lot of stuff about 31. Now, I think it has more cool stuff about it than 13 does. Let's go to 13. 13 has some fun stuff here, and it is a Fibonacci number. Now, not going to give too many clues, but I will say to those who like the Fibonacci numbers, they may be playing a role in tomorrow's combo class episode. 13 is another leg of a Pythagorean triple, one of the simpler ones. And there's some cool stuff here, but not as much cool stuff as 31 maybe. It is a Wilson prime. We covered that in an episode as well. So 30, and they're actually both twin primes, 31 and 13. They're both actually the upper one of a twin prime. 13 is 2 above 11. 31 is 2 above 29. All right. Now, thank you to everybody who's joining and leaving fun comments. Keep it up, although I am going to get distracted by musical stuff in a minute. So we can forget about this stuff, but let's be appreciative that, wow, this channel's still growing really good. Doing awesome. So to all the new combo lords, remember, all this stuff's linked in the description, but make sure you're tuned into the combo class channel. And there's also other cool combo class community stuff linked in the description. So, and someone said I wouldn't fib about tomorrow's topic, would I? I would never fib about an episode, but I might Fibonacci about an episode once in a while. Somebody asked, is the number 23 an interesting prime? And it does have one interesting trait I can think. Well, it sort of was notable in the last episode on the Combo Class channel, where it's the largest prime in the range, where every number is either prime, even, or threeven. So it's a little random, but basically it's the largest prime before you'd have to start checking if something has a factor of 5 in addition to the 2 or 3. But the more notable trait that randomly comes to mind is that 23 is the first prime with distance on both sides of it. That has no prime within 2 of either side of it. 2 and 3 are super close. 5 is close to 3 and 7. 11 and 13. And 17 and 19. 23 is 4 away from the prime before it, and it is 6 away from the prime above it. So it's the first prime with distance. Oh yeah, somebody's noting that too. We have a little delay, so sometimes we just note that I get your comments about 30 seconds, maybe even a minute after they're left, unfortunately. But, you know, maybe someday when I have someone else running tech on my live streams, when I have my team more fully assembled, then we'll find ways to make it extra high quality and less of a delay still. So, somebody asked, do I like Tool? If they mean the band Tool, because it's about music here, they're cool. I haven't gotten super deep into them ever, but they are cool and interesting. A band that some people associate with a similar-ish style or culture, maybe, I don't know, that I was really into throughout my life is Nine Inch Nails, which is mildly similar to Tool. But Nine Inch Nails I was hugely into in like middle school and high school, and haven't listened to that as much recently, but definitely some really cool albums. I honestly listen these days to mostly hip-hop, rap music, but there's a variety of music styles that I do love, and I love to listen to and make. And I've been making some music with my friends. At some point, maybe I will link to you folks some of the rare verses I have been laying down on my friends' tracks. Now, I will be publishing some of my own music at some point on this channel. There won't just be music theory videos in the future. There will also be occasionally on this channel, probably not on the combo class channel, but this channel is my playground, and there'll probably be like music videos that I'll make on this channel occasionally as well. I foresee making a lot of music like I often do. I'm not going to put out every song I make on this channel, but I might sometimes put out a music video or two, and in those also link more songs that I've made. And then if you don't like that, if it's not your cup of tea, you can skip that because it's still not going to be the majority of the content here. And if you ever really get annoyed by this channel, the combo class channel will be more pure, almost predictable what you'll get out of the episodes. Treating this channel as my playground is working surprisingly well, so we're going to keep that up. Now, somebody's wondering how these arbitrary properties of prime numbers have practical applications. Well, we'll have to go into specific traits, how they're important, but the prime numbers in general are like the building blocks of all numbers in terms of, or all whole numbers, or even rational numbers in terms of multiplication. And so they're kind of like just a structure within all numbers. The Mersenne primes, the hyper 11s, they include the largest primes of all. So I'm not sure if you consider it practical to know a bigger prime than ever known before, but it is useful to know what's up with that. Primes are used in computing and in security and stuff like that. And the biggest primes known to humanity are binary hyper 11s that are only composed of ones because they're one less than a power of 2. And I predict it's highly likely the next prime discovered will be that type as well. So this isn't, a crazy guess. It's relatively, most mathematicians would probably guess the same as me. But I will throw out my prediction that, at some point in the next 5 years, we're going to find a bigger prime of this type. Now, somebody asked if I like JPEG Mafia. Yeah, he's cool. He makes very interesting music. Now, let's get to the music pretty soon, I suppose. That was most of our random mathematical topics. And if anyone dips out from the music, remember that this may be replacing tomorrow's stream. I'm not positive if I can stream then again, although I often have been doing Mondays as my recurring one. But there will certainly be a combo class episode out tomorrow, 16 to 18 minutes or so of awesome golden ratio stuff. And last question before we jump into the music. Somebody asked, what's one thing in math I found very amusing? One thing that comes to mind, although this is more about how humans label math, is there's a lot of funny names in number theory. I had an episode a while ago about some of my favorites, but there are numbers called like untouchable numbers, sociable numbers. What are all the funny types of number? List of numbers. I want to go through like some of the names that are funny. So, where's type? They have this somewhere maybe. List of types of numbers. Where's like the number theory one? There somewhere here, I feel like they have a list of a lot of the names. But in any case, leave a comment if you have any favorites. I know some of the other funny ones are like, there's, what are some of the funniest names we've seen? There's like practical and impractical numbers. There's a lot of numbers that like describe their traits, like happy numbers and lucky numbers and stuff. There's some that get kind of roasted. There's one called abundant numbers. Their divisors apart from themselves add up to more than themselves. Perfect numbers, it adds up to exactly themselves. And if it adds up to less, they call them deficient numbers. I also find it funny that on some of those terms, the really low numbers are on some contradictory seeming lists. Like if I look at the one that's for table of divisors, where's that? Is it table of prime factors? Oh, here's some funny names. Here we go. Let's see. Balanced, circular, cluster primes. You got your emerp, so that's primes backwards. You got good primes. If you have good primes, do you have bad primes? There is something called an evil number. Happy primes, home prime, irregular primes, isolated primes, lucky primes. You got a lot of types of names of primes. These are just the primes. These aren't like all the types of number. These are just the ones that are some type of prime with the name. And, oh yeah, a funny one is that primes that are 2 away are called twin primes, and a lot of people know that. Primes that are 4 away are called prime cousin. Which one's prime cousins? Let's see. Where's the names? Here. 4 away are cousin primes. 6 away are sexy primes. I'm not the one who named it. Don't blame me if I ever say it. And then you get some more types that sound like relatives. This one's apparently a combo called a sexy prime triplet. And there's a sexy prime quadruplet. So, mathematicians have fun. Don't even get me started on some of the times where the mathematicians have really had fun with the names. There's a few that they purposefully get kind of inappropriate. We'll make an episode about that someday, about the times the mathematicians wanted to see what they could sneak into the name of their theorem or whatever and got away with it. So feel free to leave a comment if you have any favorites like that. For example, I'll note that I'm pretty sure the mathematicians who named the hairy ball theorem knew what they were doing there. So we'll go into those ones at some point. But there's also just a lot of funny names in number theory of like a type of number. Somebody mentioned illegal primes. All right. Somebody asked if I like Jack Harlow. Everyone says I look like him. When I post my videos on TikTok, especially the shorts, everyone's like, a comment I have probably gotten in the 3-digit or maybe 4-digit amount of times is Math Harlow. Greatest, most original gag. People think that they're dropping when they do that. So I hear that apparently I look a lot like him, and I have sometimes pulled up a picture of him and I'm like, what? I do look kind of like him, but he's all right. He's not my favorite rapper. I don't know. I haven't listened to too much of his stuff. I could beat him in a rap battle. I'm not even joking. If someone sets that up, I would rap battle Jack Harlow, and we can put money for charity on the line, and I'll beat him. There's nothing against him, though. He's, not bad. So, now we are going to jump into some music. First, actually, one last thing I did have pulled up here, and we will go into actually this stuff in an episode, which is called Prime Constellations. So, we will do an episode about prime constellations. Technically, you often see it written like this, a k-tuple, or like a 5-tuple or whatever. But its nickname is prime constellations, basically. And so we will do a thing about that. And cool stuff. The other thing I wanted to see is what fun numbers are we on our way to passing, and why did I mention this Mersenne prime with so much detail? Well, it's because we're close to another Mersenne prime, 131,071. It's getting a lot of views today on some random shorts, so we're probably going to be here tomorrow or the next day. And in a day or two, we will pass that Mersenne prime, which is a long string of ones if written in binary. Let's see how many ones that one is. Which power of 2 is that right under? I guess it's right here. So 2 to the 17th power. It's that minus 1. And so it's going to have about that many ones when we write it in binary. And no zeros in the mix in the main representation of the number. Hyper 11 prime. So that's cool. And some other random ones here. Let's now move onward to our other topic, which was music making. Now, let's see. Here we have a simple beat making or music mixing or whatever software that, once again, I'm not a tech guy. I like simple stuff. And so this Garageband program that comes for free on some computers is not what you want to use necessarily to like mix the audio for a feature film or whatever. But I like its simplicity. I don't like technology, so I don't mind painting with limited tools and seeing what I can do with that. I am going to have to go through and download some more sounds, because right before the stream I realized that a lot of the sounds here you have to download to use. So we have a very limited, today, canvas of what tones we can use. We can also add effects to them. If we don't like the tone, maybe we can like it if we add some distortion or whatever. In fact, distortion is one that you'll commonly see me add because I find it makes a certain cheesiness that these tones can have a little less so. It makes it sound a little more real, not in that it has to sound like a live instrument always, but that it sounds a little more, fun and real instead of cheesy sometimes when I add a little bit of distortionish something to them. But what we're mostly going to look at is putting together a few random instruments, and I'll probably talk about, real quick, a little bit about the theory, and then just sort of speed run making a little music for fun. So what we have here is like a piano instrument, and I can make a zone. And by the way, audio-wise, the audio you're going to hear is going to be coming through my computer into itself. So it's not going to be the greatest audio of all time. At some point, maybe I'll release the beat. Like, I released a lot of my old beats on my Patreon, at least. I'll make them more public at some point. And then you could hear it in better quality. It's not going to sound the best quality. Also, if we make anything fun today, I might put it in the soundtrack of the episode, because I'm not done editing tomorrow's episode. So, if we get into music making streams, what we might do in the future is I could have headphones on, be hearing it, and then have you hearing what's coming through the computer. But I'm not enough of a tech guy, and last time I let you hear what was coming through the computer, ads started playing, and that was my nightmare. So we're gonna do it this way today. Somebody asked if I have a keyboard or guitar on me. I don't, but I have a guitar in my room. So I have a guitar like 50 feet over there. If I need to run inside to go to the bathroom or something, or grab some water or whatever, although I do have a little coffee here, then maybe I'll grab the guitar if it's helpful. And I don't have one right here in the classroom. I wouldn't leave it out here because you know what would happen to it. So what we have here is a few ways I can look at it. And if a lot of people are writing music, like here's the thing called C major chord in root position. If somebody wrote it, they might write it with this type of music. Okay, yes, it sounds very cheesy. We're gonna have to fix our tones and stuff. But there's our little quick C major chord. Maybe we thought it was too quick, maybe we'll extend them a little bit. Now, we could look at it in the score, but I actually like this way more. where we see it like a sideways piano. Here's part of why. This is a C major chord. There are certain traits that if I slide everything fairly will stay a certain trait. And it's reminiscent of how if I have an equation, I can like add 2 to each side. And if, x equals 2y, then I can say, x plus whatever is 2y plus that same thing. So you can add or multiply or do certain things that are equal to both sides of an equation. And then it's fair and everything worked out right. You maintained some properties. We also kind of see that in modular arithmetic with the Clarke math, where if you follow something and know what rules are maintained, you can see something in a different form, but know it has certain of the same traits. Now, we also could think of it almost as like, if I had whole numbers, and let's say that, let's start with an interval. This interval right here is called a major third, the way I have it. And it is 4 of the smallest steps I could go apart. Half steps or semitones, they're called. So I went like up 4 of those micro steps. Now, wherever I move this, it still could be a major third from that spot. It has the same interval, distance between them. And it's almost like if you had like the number 1 and the number 3 and you slid them both up or down a number line, they're still 2 apart. And if you wanted them to still be whole numbers that were 2 apart, if you like slid them up incrementally, you could keep that trait about them. Here, if I have this whole chord, which is made of a major third and a fifth, this is now called a D chord. If I look at it in the score, it has sharp in the middle, because one of them landed on black key. If I slide it down, now it's C major, no sharp. It looks different. But here, I like this sideways piano because we can sort of just see the distances. We can see this distance is staying the same. I am making major chords. And right now I have it in a shape called root position, where the one on the bottom will be the name of the major chord. So like that's a D note, it's a D major chord. And what we're going to do more in-depth music theory lessons in sometime is going to be major chords that sound like this and minor chords that sound a little more dark or mysterious. Kind of subtle difference right there, but let's hear that one more time. Here's the major. Here's the minor. And those are the, probably if you had to only pick 2 chords that you had to call the most fundamental, those would be them. And so they're going to be the first music theory lesson we'll do on the combo class channel, probably, is going to be what's up with major and minor chords. And we're basically going to look at a math that relates to, here I have a +4 of something tiny and then a +3 of that same unit. And if I move it up there, it's still happening. I still have +4, +3. And if I have this, I went +3, +4. And then there's other things we could do where we scramble them and put them in different shapes and stuff like that. But in general, learning those major and minor chords will be a good first step. Then we can learn major and minor scales, which is easier than it sounds, because if you don't mind viewing it as math, there's like some basically equations that you just slide to a new place and do the equation from there, and it gives you the major or minor scale. So, people are also noting that they've seen digits of pi tested as music. That's interesting, although it's dependent on pi being written in our base 10 system. And I would like to see more non-base dependent musical experiments. And we can try stuff on our own of seeing how things like the Fibonacci sequence or whatever sound, or how the primes sound and stuff like that. Certainly fun experiments to be had there. However, that's going to be slightly different than when we make a good sounding thing. Usually there's kind of, if we're steering toward, I want to have it be some purely numerical thing. It's going to be more on the vibe of an experiment that hopefully sounds a little good. Whereas if we put our mind toward, you know, not being stuck on a single equation, songs are kind of a combo of a lot of different equations and stuff. So our best sounding music probably won't be those experiments, but we will try them anyway. And what I'm going to do pretty quick soon is just shift over to making some music. But first I'll explain just a little longer of why don't we... I just need a different tone for this thing. I do not like that piano. Let's make it maybe this grand piano. Okay, that's a little better. I can deal with that. Now, that'll be a little clearer. And what we're going to do right now is I'm just going to pick 2 chords. And I'm just going to put those on the piano in the background. And they're not even going to be necessarily in the song at the end. I might mute that track at the end. It's going to be to show me what my other stuff sounds good with melodically. And so we're going to want, in most songs, there's like a background chord happening, even if they don't make it this obvious at a given time. And so we want our melody stuff to sound good on the background chord. Now, let's, make a different chord. Let's have 1 major and 1 minor. Oop, I pasted the wrong thing. There we go. Now, we'll just do a classic one, which is called Going Down to... Let's see what we have here. That was not what I meant, even though it sounds kind of cool. What I was going to do is a slightly classic one, which is we go to what's called the relative minor. Actually, maybe I like that weirder experiment one. What was going on there? We went down to a B. All right, we're going to go with that, even though it's a little different. So these are both major chords. We have a D to a B flat is the name of these chords. Now, like I said, those are just going in the background for a minute, so we know if our stuff sounds right. So now we're going to add a new track, and what we're going to do is put on some sort of bass line to start. How about? And we don't have many of them available here. We have most of the tones they want me to download, which I'll do later because I think they're free, but I need to download them. So we basically have a choice between an upright bass and an electric bass. Let's do the electric bass for now. We can always change it if we want. So I don't even know if this is going to be necessarily the right speed I want the beat to go. It might be too fast for the chord shift to happen. And in fact, let me lower it a bit just to see. We'll test it at around 100. We'll go a little between those maybe. We'll try that for now. Now, I'm just going to do a little bass line that's going to wander us from here to here. And then why don't we wander it from here to a different note that was on that chord. Or we'll wander all the way up to the octave of that one. At this point, as I start going into it, it's going to be a little less explainy, but I will pause to explain certain things, but mostly I'm just going to start getting absorbed into putting together a few elements for us to hear. What I want to do is get us to there in a fun way. Which of these? Now I'm going to somewhat copy these and then change them a bit. So, I'm not sure if this will sound good yet. Let's hear how it sounds on the background chords. This one I'll have a little less abrupt. That sounds good for our start. Maybe I want these a lower sound, though. Let's hear if this is too low. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this piano because I might want a piano in there, and I'll keep this as a start. And I'm going to make it into what's called an arpeggio, where we put the chord notes all kind of in a row. Uh-oh, I switched too fast. Didn't want to switch chords yet. Maybe I'll turn around sooner so I can go low. Oh, this leaf just fell. Lucky leaf. Now, I'm actually just going to copy this and slide it because they're both major keys, and I'm going to see if it sounds okay to do that from both. The piano's a little busy. Something's going on, clashing there. We will fix any inconsistencies there in a bit. What I need to do is add some sort of drum to hear what actual sort of rhythm we're going to have in this song. Now, I don't know which drum tones they have available. Let's try one of the electronic ones, because sometimes it's harder to make the wanting to sound live ones not sound super fake live. So we might embrace the digital sound with it. What do these sound like for a kick drum and a snare drum, which they usually put in these spots? Maybe we'll go with this one for now. A punchy feel. Now, where are we going to... Now that's a copy, but maybe I'll add some hi-hats that I change along the way. Let's see if that's too fast. That'll be good if I turn those down a bit, which is called the velocity here, how hard they're going. Now I'm also going to see if I can double one up here. And I might speed this up a tiny bit. Let's see if this sounds alright so far. Pretty strange beat so far, but we can turn it into something fun for sure. I'm going to turn these pretty low on that velocity thing. And we're going to try adding a more backgroundy instrument to carry that chord sound. And maybe I'm actually going to change this arpeggio to a different instrument. Let's see how it sounds on a different thing. Maybe on a guitar, even though it'll sound kind of fake. That might sound good. Maybe I'll have my piano do something else. Maybe I will go back to having some piano chords that are on the lower end. Now, I'm going to see if I can lower these and make that sound fit in. And I'm going to keep the lower one especially a little long. Let me see if this works. Whoa, I made it twice as fast as it was supposed to be. That's what I get for just zooming in here on my brain and not thinking. This needs to be way slower. It needs to be over there, half the speed. Let's try that. Wait, I still made it twice as fast. It was 4 times as fast before? Okay. Sometimes I get lost on which scale we're on. That doesn't fit in. Oh, that's a G. I want an A. And I'm going to turn these ones a little... Oops. These ones a little down. So that's the start of our strange little beat so far. Let me take a peek at our chat. Somebody said violin could come in after 4 to 8 measures. We could try some orchestra instruments like that for sure. And let me, yeah, I guess I'll add another instrument that I'm thinking maybe I'm going to try and add something like a horn, but I could experiment with a violin as well. Now, let's do one that's a little more of a melody, because a lot of these were sort of hopping around chord-like stuff, apart from the bass was a little melody-like. And we'll try... Where's my orchestra-y stuff? Maybe a brass. We can try seeing if a trumpet sounds okay in the mix. Or a trombone or something. Now what I'm going to do with these trumpets is I'm going to mess with some of the settings on some of these. Let me try and make these sound more how I want them. Now, like this one, I want to turn down the highness on it a bit, turn down the reverb a bit. And I do want to add the distortion thing I was talking about on a few of them, of some type or another, because it can make them sound a little fresher and more interesting. No, I'm messing with the trumpets. What am I doing? I'm not even changing it. There we go. I was wondering why it wasn't sounding different. Alright. Turn up the low a bit. Down the reverb. And try it on this one. This one I do want the reverb on, sort of. And these things. That one sounds okay for now. We're gonna deal with the drums later, but we'll keep that as our background beat for now. These I want not, or we'll see what they sound like. So that's a fun start for a little beat there. And yeah, the software, to whoever asked, is Garageband, which, like I said, is a really simple program you'll hit limitations on, but yeah, you can make it work. You can do cool things in it. You can also just use it to record your own stuff in, like you can plug in a microphone or whatever. We'll see that another day. And maybe I will grab my guitar in a moment because I do have to hit the bathroom real quick. And I might as well get the guitar someone mentioned. But, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll take a miniature break from this. Somebody is saying maybe adding some chromatic notes, which would be wandering out of the scale a bit. Could add to the weirdness, and that could sound cool. And GarageBand, I believe, is Apple only. However, I'm sure there's similar softwares. So I'm sure if you're on PC, if you look up what are free digital music softwares, there are plenty of good options. So, I don't like the fact that GarageBand's on Macs because when I used to be a music teacher and I had a bunch of students who I wanted to teach beat making to like this because I'd already taught them piano and guitar and they wanted to learn more stuff from me. And I was like, well, why don't we expand a bit, and instead of just continuing those, I'll show you this beat making stuff. But it was hard to explain it to them if they didn't happen to have an Apple computer, which I happen to have, but I'm not an advocate for or anything. I don't care what type of computer someone has. Shouldn't be such a branded thing. But in fact, you saw how I treated my last Apple computer. This got some people mad. It was already broken, folks. Now, let's see. Somebody says the average mammal urinates for 21 seconds regardless of size. Theoretically, I could count how long it is when I go in. That might be kind of weird data to report, but maybe. That is interesting, though. And I am going to run inside for a moment. I'll be back soon, and what we will do is add a few more things to the beat, and I'll have a guitar here just to show for fun. And from there, I will also answer what other questions anyone has. So leave whatever questions or thoughts in the chat. I'm going to leave this on a loop pretty quietly in the background, but to make it less boring, we will loop it a little longer and have not everything going the whole time, and then it'll change a little bit during this loop. Well, there. Now it's going to change a little bit as we go. So this will be in the background, and also keep your eye out for the squirrels. There's always a chance one runs back there. So be back in 3 minutes. All right. Welcome back, folks. Well, I guess not welcome back to you. Welcome back only to me. You've either been back or are gone and can't hear this. So, let's see. All right. That's funny. I like the joke about not even a huge violin fan. Someone commented that a violin fan would be good to keep the violinists cool. Reminds me of one of my favorite wordplay jokes, because I like ones that have multiple puns in one. I like the one that's like, what's a windmill's favorite music genre? Well, they're a big metal fan. All right, so feel free to leave puns. I do like dumb puns, especially if you can fit a 2-in-1 or a 3-in-1 or whatever. Now, here we had our little start of the beat that we'll come back to in a minute, but I did grab the guitar because somebody wondered if I had one around. How does a guitar relate to this? Well, this is an old dusty one. I haven't played this in a minute. Need to clean it off, but still got all 6 of our strings. Let's see if it's in tune at all. Yeah, this needs new strings, but they're close enough. I can tune it close enough. All right. Now, what's going on with the guitar is the strings start as certain notes, and the notes that they are this. So if I just strum a guitar downward without putting any fingers making a good shape on it, what it's going to make is... That's this. But maybe higher or lower sounding pitch. But those are the notes. And so when I put a shape on it, I'm like adjusting them. And I'm like, okay, if that one was there and that one was there, all of a sudden it sounds okay. Wait, I did something wrong there. Wait, that one's there. No, that one stays there. Let's see. What chord am I trying to make? I'm getting mixed up. E. We'll make a E minor. B, E. So if I raise those a bit, now I sort of have a chord. That was a minor chord. I could have made it a major chord by making that there. Now, that's basically what you're doing on guitar, is taking those 6 original notes and raising some or others of them to fit along better, because our chord that I started with was 3 notes. Some chords have 4 notes, but if you look at these original guitar ones, only one is a copy of the other letter's note, like a higher pitched version of the same musical letter, which is there's 2 E strings, but there's 5 different letters going on the guitar of the neutral like starting point of them, and 5 notes at once is not going to make a good chord. 4 notes in a chord even, you got to be careful to make it when and how that sounds good. Most chords are 3 notes or sometimes 4 notes, and these 5 different letters all at the same time don't make a good chord, so you need to adjust them a bit. And similar to how I said we can slide anything up or down fairly, like we're editing an equation fairly, you can do that here with this thing called bar chords, where if I'm making a chord and I first tried to slide it up, if I'm like, okay, this is called an E chord, let's make it an F chord. Well, I only slid up the ones that my fingers were on, and the ones that were playing blank strings are still playing the old blank string, not a slid up version. But if you make this thing called bar chord, then you can like move the chords anywhere. So this is a harder thing. It's harder for your hand to do this. It takes most people about like a year or so to get comfortable with pushing it down this way. But So bar chords are not like first week guitar thing, but they're theory-wise really cool because they let us slide stuff up and down fairly. And you mostly only need 2 extra important bar chords. This one that's E major and minor and 7th, and this one that's A major, minor, and 7th. So those are very useful and cool. And as we're going to see when I do more music teaching, although there's letters involved for sure, we're going to... What's going on? My phone's like trying to connect to the computer or something. No, I don't want to connect. Go off. Disconnect. Yeah, I don't want my phone connected. So, and what is up, everyone? We got another good pun. We got, you can't run through a campsite. You can only ran because it's past tense. That's a good one. Yeah, I had a lot of good tent material ready for puns when I had a tent out here, because the stuff we did, you could call it intense, and it is intense, and I have good intentions, and there's more things we could have slipped in. So, oh, I guess I cut this off at a kind of weird point in my loop. Did I? Yeah, I looped that a little weirder than I was expecting to. Hopefully it sounded okay in the background. It should have been looped a little more off-centered like that. However, it probably worked. Now, what I was going to say is that although there's letters in music, we're going to, whenever possible, see what numbers there are. And there's 2 main types of numbers, which are... Well, the 2 main types of numbers, basically, that we're going to encounter will be naming... There is some scale, which is some set of notes, and it is the somethingth of the scale. Or it is this many higher or lower in the scale. And the other type is going to be just looking at half steps or semitones, which is how many of these little micro steps above we've gone, counting any black key or white key. Like if you were a little ant walking on each key, including the black keys, how many would you go? With those 2 types of number, you can make a lot of patterns more universal and spread them to all sorts of things. Now, I suppose I'll add a quick violin line. I don't think I'm going to do too many more layers on this. I'm not intending to make a super polished, finished beat in today's stream because we had a variety of mini topics. But I will add a violin since some people thought that would sound good. Shrink. Where's that going to be? Orchestral. Strings. Do we have it anywhere else? Because it might be one that we need to download. Because under strings, violin is that type of string instrument. I don't know if we have violin anywhere else. 3 violins. That's like a weird synthesizer or something, maybe? What is that going to do? There's like a synthesizer violin. Maybe we can make it work. Kind of weird sounding. I don't know why it's called 3 violins. I guess it is 3 violins. We'll try this one. It's a little stranger, but we'll try it. Now, I'm not sure how this is all going to fit in, but let's see how it sounds if we go that on there. That sounds good, but I'm going to want it to change a little more. So let's double it and then change it the second time. This one, I didn't like the sound of that much, the guitar. I'm going to try and change this one's tone. I like the idea of the harp I saw here, but I'm not sure, because sometimes the harp on here is too reverby. And when you have like a bunch of notes, I'll turn that down, the reverb and ambiance, but it still kind of like echoes out a lot in a way that makes the chords blend into each other a little, but in this case they have enough notes in common, I think it works. We also need to change this one's tone. And we're going to make it a little more versatile. We're going to do that thing where we duplicate the second half a little different. Oh no, wait, that was the piano. I meant on the trumpets. I did want to change the tone of this too. I put this distortion on it. I'm going to make it a little lower, like more like muddy in the sound a bit. These trumpets might need to go down an octave. Let's see if that's doing too much. Sounds pretty interesting. Ooh, yeah, this is okay. We got more puns in here. Someone asked, am I recreating or is this an original? This is an original. We were just making this from scratch. So when anyone who came in late can always rewatch this when it posts as a video afterward. and you can watch me make this from scratch. Now, let me note real quick that the soundtracks in my combo class episodes I do make, and they're basically the process I was doing here, just for 10 times longer. Just having spending a few hours tweaking stuff around and adding stuff around. And I do like the idea somebody added about adding both octaves to the trumpet part. And I do like the puns. The bicycle falling over because it was too tired is another one of my favorites. And what I wanted to show real quick is when they're more finished, here is this is one I made on stream the other day that I have now polished up a bit. This is a mildly polished up version of the last time I did this was a couple months ago when I made a beat on stream. This is the tidied up version of it. Now, these aren't just for soundtracking purposes, but they're also going to become fuller songs at some point that will involve rapping and singing and a few other layers of things. So be on the warning for that. And somebody noted I should fix the tone on the violin, how it's distorted like the others. It already has this kind of fuzziness going on, but I could add the distortion to see if that helps it fit in. That might work a little bit. Yeah, some of the earliest combo class episodes that other people edited for me, there's a few public domain Creative Commons other people's beats in the first few episodes, but the past 20 or 30 episodes on the combo class channel, every sound in that was made by me in addition to the visual stuff. Now, somebody said the trumpet part could have both octaves, which is a good idea. What if we let it build up to the higher one, even though then we're going to maybe need to move that further. We'll see. By raising this all an octave and then having it get there some other way. Sometimes that's a fun way to view music, is you figure out which note you want to get to where, and then you need to create a fun little trail there. So that might help it get up an octave. Let's see if that works. If it climbs up a whole octave. That sounds good. Now we're going to see if it can work to do both at the same time, even though sometimes it's too busy to put all your stuff at once. Let's see if it sounds okay all together with these elements. At some point I might put them together, but I think they work better separate. the trumpet or the violin. I'm going to let the trumpet and violin take turns. Now, one tone that can sound kind of cool to add in the background that was another one of these orchestra-y ones is the choir tones, which maybe we'll put in during like the second half of some of the build-ups to add some emphasis. And oops. There we go. I'm going to put this really quiet sometimes, just as a little emphasis on the second half, and we'll see how that sounds. All right, well, that's an example of this little thing. Someone says I get sidetracked so much it's a safety hazard. I do have to be careful of getting sidetracked if I am doing something, say, involving fire or anything of that sort. Getting sidetracked here, I don't think, will cause us too many hazards. That's sort of the way the live streams are built. My live streams are my let myself get sidetracked videos. And one other thing I do want to note, just because I'm seeing this out of the corner of my eye, completely unrelated, but the cool ferrofluid lamp that I received from one of my Patreon supporters, George Carozzi, sent this cool lamp thing, and it's magnetic, so we can make it do cool spiky stuff. And I showed it once, but let's get another view of it while we chat, because it's really cool. So, it already starts off lava lampy, but what's extra fun is when we blob it over. Now, I'm actually going to zoom this extra in for a moment. Doesn't that look wild? Now, I'm not sure if you can see the spikiness, but it's spiky. And then it forms blobby things. Now, it's not fully warmed up right there, maybe, because sometimes it sticks to the wall if it's gotten cold or too hot, or if the temperature needs to sort of re-amalgamate. Ooh, we got a cat, too. It's Sassafras. It's the one who was a stray, but is now so loving that... Sassafras! Sassafras! Okay, he's not coming right now, but he was a stray like a year ago. Yeah, actually, we adopted him officially last May, so just about a year ago. And he was just a wild boy who was so scared to even let us near him. And now he is a love monster. He will come every morning begging for pets. So yeah, I think I need to heat it up a little more and use the bigger magnet maybe to make it not be blobbing on the side like it's doing right there, because that's when it's like a certain temperature consistency or whatever. Might need to re-stir it a little bit there. And it forms a lot of little spheres when it's not getting spiky. It likes sphere-ness in the... when it's not being magnetized to a thing. So this is cool. Now, I am going to wrap up the stream before too long. I'm not sure if I'm going to add too much more to this beat right now. I just wanted to do a fun example of that, and it might be an activity we come back to from time to time in our live streams and such. And there will be more thorough music theory lessons, as well as some of my music, on this channel and the Combo Class channel at various points. Although, another reminder that the main thing to look out for is tomorrow, Monday. I will not be probably... I might, but I'm not guaranteeing a live stream like I do some Mondays. Oh, it's a squirrel. See that squirrel? Yeah. Animals love my combo classroom. Now, tomorrow, probably not going to be a live stream, although there could be, just not guaranteeing one, but there will be a main combo class episode all about the golden ratio. So, make sure to check that out. All right. Now, somebody's saying, what do we suppose the spikes are? High points of the magnetic wave. I'm not positive exactly. It's the magnetism causes it to do trippy stuff, but I'm not positive. I haven't researched the ferrofluid much. As you folks may know, I love playing with science, but I'm not as like automatically pre-knowledgeable about science. If I make a science episode, I need to like do a bunch of research first, as opposed to a math episode of certain types of math. I already kind of have like ready to go up here. So I read a lot more math books than science books, for example. So I don't actually know as much about why and how magnetism works in this, but maybe I will learn someday. Now, leave any last comments. I'm going to put on the whole beat one last time while I play with this, and then I think I'm going to log off pretty soon. So we're going to get to treat this like our little beat for a moment, and I probably will put a little snippet of it in the soundtrack of the Golden Ratio episode. So if any of you are around for that, leave a comment on that video saying, I was on the stream when this beat was made. Okay. and it'll probably actually go back to the violin thing there, but that's where I ended it for now. So, hope, and for anyone who wants to see it one more time, this is what it ended up looking like. We got these 5 tracks. Oh, no, wait. How many tracks do we have? We have 7 tracks, and they each have their own little thing down here that I looped for some amount of time and copied different places. And just by making 7 little combos of all of these little things, we get that whole sound, you know? All of this is just part of that little 7 combo. So that's why it's fun to play with the limited canvas sometimes. We made it work. In a real song, you probably would have this many elements going at a time, although they'd be polished up more. Maybe one more element going at a time, you know, I might put in. But mostly we would have more variation in a real song. I would, you know, make these change a little more over time, probably copy slightly different versions of them in some places, maybe change chords at some point. You know, we might not even stay with this 2-chord pattern the whole time. So, a lot of fun stuff we could do. I'll also sometimes show you inside the Garageband of my other beats I've made, but I don't think those are going to open right on this computer. It's really annoying because my old Garageband beats use the tones that were available then, and I need to figure out a way to download the old Garageband tones on my new computer if I want to open the old beats and play them properly. So good thing I exported most of them before the computer broke. Now when I open the files, some of the sounds sound different because there's like a new version of the bass in, you know, sometimes it's the right notes, but it changes the tone. And so I need to get the old tones on here too. Now, that was all for today. People can also leave a suggestion if they think I should name this song anything. Obviously, if I ever like wrote lyrics over it or something, the name might be changed to fit the lyrics. But as far as what I call the beat for now, we let ChatGPT name the last one. And ChatGPT is actually better at coming up with song names than it is at knowing anything about numbers. And we do need to get that back out sometime and see if they have actually gotten better at math or if they're just saying it again. Because last time they said they got better at math, that was a myth. Now, I'm going to log off soon, so I will do my quick note that for anyone who wants to catch more content, obviously there's 1,000,000 pounds of content on both of my channels, so you probably haven't seen it all. Especially make sure you've seen the combo class channel ones. And if you want to see stuff that is going to be followed up on in the golden ratio episode, it's not necessary to see these at all. But if you want to see a longer look at a few things out of the many things in this new episode, a few things that it sort of calls back on are in the episode about infinite continued fractions. Something from that involved the golden ratio that'll come back. And the episode about fractional and irrational bases. The golden ratio base in there, I briefly mention in this episode again because it functions because of a mega identity we're going to see. So now, apart from that, of course, if you're extra helpful, there's a Patreon. And even if you can't afford that, there is cool combo community at a Discord and at a subreddit. So those are all in the description. And that's most of what we had planned for today. Keep an ear out for maybe I'll put part of this beat in the background of that next episode. And I do have many fun ideas for bonus videos to put out on this channel in the near future. It's been a pretty stream-heavy past couple weeks compared to what type of content I put out here. Mostly because the streams don't require editing. And all of my possible editing time is being used up on stuff like main combo class episodes. As I work with more editors on my team, I'll probably transition some of my stream ideas into like more bite-sized 15-minute videos. But right now the stream's not requiring editing is a little incentivizing. Of course, I do rewatch them later to add timestamps, but or I kind of skim through to add the timestamps. If anybody ever watches one of these after the fact and you don't see timestamps that I've put in yet, feel free to leave a comment with any moments that, like, this time this happened, this time this happened, because that's helpful for other viewers. And I try and add those. Like, I'm going to add it in a little bit, but I'm not positive if it's going to all have the timestamps in like 20 minutes or in like 2 hours, you know. But hope you all have been enjoying the live streams, and there will be more bonus videos and shorts and stuff coming out. I've just been mostly focused on these combo class episodes, and we got another banger coming tomorrow. So, someone said, is there a way to give one-time donations? Thank you for asking, and there is on YouTube, I believe. I do technically have a PayPal, so if somebody wanted to make like a sizable donation that was worth like discussing and stuff, you can email me. Like, my email's in the thing here, and we could arrange something. But for people who have ability on the YouTube thing, I've also seen people buy the thing called Super Thanks on one of the videos or something like that. And I get more than half of that. I don't know how YouTube gets a cut of that, but I get more than half of if you do the Super Thanks thing. I think I get 70%. I'm not positive what it is. So that's a way to, you know, donate money to mostly me and a little bit to YouTube. If anyone wanted to make a sizable one-time donation, you could hit up my email. If it's just a few dollars and Patreon and YouTube's not easy, you know, everything does really help, but commenting and watching also helps. So, you know, donating isn't the only way to help. There's also try and make sure you watch all of each video and that you leave a comment on most of them and such. And all the people doing that are really helping us expand this combo world. I really have a lot of great ideas for you folks. And right now, grade -2 is similar to grade -1 because I'm still running the show myself with 1 or 2 friends I hire for a few things like filming. And as I expand a team and go deeper, we'll be able to have bigger scale versions of some of the concepts I want to show. And some of my favorite concepts that I'm still saving because I want to represent them in a really cool way. And we also get to do more sciencey experiments as we get more resources. Because, you know, if I ever have enough money, you know, for sure I'm going to have like a massive one of these and like a crazy Tesla coil. And, you know, we'll have cool stuff here. So, thank you all for joining me in any case. I am going to log off here. And once again, yeah, to whoever said they're too poor for any sizable donation, no worries. Totally understandable. I give a few bucks a month to my favorite math YouTubers on Patreon. There are a few different channels I give a few bucks a month to, but everyone has their own budget, and like I can't donate like $50 to one of them. I just can't afford that. So I don't want to, you know, prevent my viewers from eating properly. It's more so for people who, you know, have that extra $5 and already know you're going to eat okay with or without that $5. But all my combo lords are welcome and awesome in places like the Discord, the subreddit, stuff like that. Totally free. My end goal is to make all my content free. I'm not addicted to money. I don't care if I get a fancy car or fancy house ever. I want to fund bigger scale videos. And if I was rich, I'll like give the rest to some educational charity. But so I don't really care about the hustling for money part. I need it to survive. Like, it would be cool to move out sometime and to have 2 sets, like a better indoor set that I lived in as well as this set I would keep. So, you know, stuff like that will help in the future. But mostly right now I am at a level where I'm able to afford making the videos I'm making. And I like the videos I'm making. So that it's working so far. And at some point, one of my goals is when I make a little more money off combo class, to be able to move out of my family's house. Although I'm going to move close enough that I can still film here. So I'm not going to move far. And whoa, somebody did a super chat. Thank you so much to Tiletna or Tietna. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Very awesome. That stuff is really helpful and cool. And it goes right into my combo class, how many days I can hire people throughout the week fund. Sometimes it's for like a prop I need, but more commonly it's the more money that's donated from awesome people like that, thank you Tiletna, lets me hire people more days of the week, basically. And then I can make more content. My end goal is to make everything for free, and I'm going to need to hustle a little along the way. So sorry for when the hustling's annoying. It embarrasses me to do. But, you know, I got to do that so that I can get to the place where I can trick millions of people into learning about math. It is for a positive end goal. And I used to, you know, have ways I would hustle in the world to make money. And so I do have to remember that although combo class is a creative project to me, sometimes I got to bust out that little hustler temporarily. And then once we have a whole team in operation or whatever, we can like stop hustling and just know that we're picked up enough on whatever algorithms or whatever. And T. Letna, I think they noted it's pronounced. Thank you so much. And I am going to log off here. There's a chance we'll do a stream tomorrow, but mostly the content will be coming on the main combo class channel. That's where the golden ratio episode is coming. And as usual, I have something fun on this channel every day or two as well. So keep your eyes out. Hope you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you're at. Really miraculous that we are still expanding up to this size. Even though our streams are usually a smaller crew, the streams do not get picked up on the algorithm the way the shorts do. I don't mind having our little, like, you know, 15 or 20 people at a time hanging out in this stream. And also shout out to whoever watches it after the fact. So I'll have some timestamps on this in a few hours. And that, you know, will motivate people. If you want to rewatch it, you can just skip to whatever topics you like. Although it might be worth rewatching Making the Beat if you have fun with the musical side of things. And do, you know, leave a comment afterward on the video if you do like musical type of related things, or you can leave a comment if you don't. I welcome constructive criticism, but I do foresee musical related things which will have math worked into them, but between making music like this or releasing a song or doing a music theory lesson, I do foresee that being maybe 1/6 of the channel, of the content on this channel. At some point. It won't ever be more than half, I don't ever think. But I can foresee 1/5 or 1/6 of the content on this channel being music related. Because it's kind of my playground channel. And a few of the big things I want to bring to the world are my videos, music that I've made and am currently making, and my books, which I have already ranted about a bit in the last stream. So thank you all so much for joining me. You're all super awesome. Have a good day/night. And I will see you